All right, today we are digging into a huge strategic shift that every single enterprise leader needs to get their head around. We're talking about how to finally escape that endless, soul-crushing cycle of patching and step into a new era of autonomous defense. Let's get right into it. And boom, this quote just cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? It's so powerful because it reframes the whole conversation. Cybersecurity isn't some IT chore on a checklist. It's what it has become, a real-time war. And right now, most companies are showing up to a high-speed, automated firefight with tools that are slow, manual, and totally outdated. And this slide, wow, it just lays the problem out so clearly. You've got attackers on one side using AI and automation to turn a new vulnerability into a weapon in just a few hours. And on the other side, you've got the defenders stuck in this bureaucratic quicksand of tickets, change control meetings, and waiting for approvals. What takes an attacker hours takes a defender weeks. Look, this isn't just a simple speed mismatch. This is the very definition of an asymmetric fight, and the defenders are on the losing end. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to completely change the goal. Then we'll dive into the 3 core pillars of this new strategy, making your infrastructure disposable, focusing only on real-world risk, and truly embracing an agent-led response. And finally, we're going to hit the hard part, the real blocker to all of this progress, culture. So let's kick things off with that fundamental mindset shift. The objective is no longer just patch faster. That's a losing game. We have to aim for something bigger, a true paradigm shift towards autonomous defense that changes the rules completely. Now, I want to be super clear here. This doesn't mean patching is dead. Not at all. What we're saying is that patching as a runtime fire drill needs to die. The whole activity gets shifted upstream. It becomes a systematic, predictable part of how you build things from the very beginning, not some chaotic, all-hands-on-deck emergency after something is already running in the wild. Which brings us perfectly to our first pillar, disposable infrastructure. You know, the core idea here is simple but radical. If we want to win those long-lived static systems, they have to go extinct. The longer a server sits around, the more of a target it becomes. And this is that classic, brilliant analogy, pets versus cattle. Think about it. For decades, we've treated our servers like beloved pets, right? We gave them cute names, we carefully patched them up when they got sick, and we did everything to keep them alive for years. The new way, the one that companies like Netflix really pioneered, is to treat them like cattle. They're anonymous, they're identical, and they are completely replaceable. You don't waste time fixing a sick one, you just replace it instantly with a fresh, healthy one. And the actual workflow, it's just beautifully simple, but so powerful. You start with a pristine, hardened golden image. You deploy your instances, but they only live for a super short time, maybe 24, maybe 72 hours max. Then you just terminate them and spin up new ones from that same golden image. This constant churn, this regeneration, means that even if an attacker gets in, the clock is already ticking on their access before their little foothold just poof, vanishes into thin air. All right, on to pillar number 2. Getting real about risk. Because even with disposable systems, you're still going to have vulnerabilities. The key is to stop the madness of chasing every single one. We have to focus our limited time and energy on the threats that can actually hurt us. We have to find the signal in all that noise. I mean, just look at this data from Google. It's absolutely staggering. It shows that a whopping 72% of the vulnerabilities that security teams are losing sleep over, the ones they're scrambling to patch, they are never exploited in the real world. We're burning ourselves out on theoretical risks. We're basically engaged in what you could call CVSS score theater instead of zeroing in on the actual weaponized threats. So how do we fix this? A modern system acts like an intelligent filter, automatically asking the questions that matter. Is this thing even reachable from the internet? Is that specific piece of vulnerable code even being used? Do we already have other controls like a WAF that block this anyway? And the million-dollar question, is there a real weaponized exploit for this thing out in the wild right now? This kind of automated triage is what lets you ignore the 98% of noise and focus all your firepower on the 2% that could genuinely ruin your day. Okay, so focusing on real risk, that's half the battle. But the other half, the one that really changes the game, is acting on it at machine speed. And that brings us to our third and honestly most revolutionary pillar, agent-led response. This is where we finally move away from a world of tickets and waiting and into a world of immediate, automated action. So let's look at how this works, starting with Tier 1, fully autonomous. This is for the easy stuff, things that are exploitable but have a low blast radius, like a bug in a small internal service. In this case, an autonomous agent handles the whole thing. It finds the bug, tests the patch safely on a canary instance, and if the tests pass, it rolls out the fix everywhere. Zero human touch, unless something breaks. Okay, but what about riskier changes? That's where we get to Tier 2, agent-assisted. Here, the agent still does all the heavy lifting. It can instantly quarantine a vulnerable service to stop the bleeding. It gets the patch ready. It sets up a test plan. But right before it deploys, it pauses and pages a human for a final look. The agent does all the grunt work in minutes. But that final, critical go or no-go decision, that still rests with a human. And then there's the really scary stuff, right? A brand new 0-day, no patch in sight. This is where the agent becomes a co-pilot. It can't magically invent a patch, but it can analyze the threat and instantly recommend powerful mitigations, like a specific firewall rule or network isolation that a human can apply with one click. This gives the human team precious life-saving time to figure out a permanent fix while the bleeding has stopped. And when you put it all together, this slide just says everything. The outcome of this tiered, agent-driven approach is a flat-out monumental leap in response time. You go from a best case of several days, and let's be honest, it's usually weeks, down to a few hours. In the real-time war we're in, the gap between hours and weeks isn't just an improvement, it's the difference between being safe and being a headline. So here's the kicker. The tech to do all this? It exists. It's real, it's proven. The single biggest reason more companies haven't adopted this model, well, it has nothing to do with code. It's all about culture. To pull this off, you literally have to rewire the brains of your security and ops teams. You have to shift from obsessing over a patch backlog to focusing on exploitability triage. You have to replace human approval gates with graduated autonomous response. You stop chasing reactive SLAs and start proactively managing an exploit budget. And of course, you move from static infrastructure to regenerative infrastructure. Every one of these is a massive cultural change. And believe me, these are the tough, on-the-ground battles leaders have to fight. Your ops teams, their whole world is built around tickets and SLAs. Your compliance rules were written for a world of slow, quarterly patching. CISOs have to justify to the board why letting a robot take action is actually safer than waiting for a committee. And your DevOps teams are, rightly terrified of any automation that could knock over production. So, I'm going to leave you with one final, very pointed question. If a major, weaponized vulnerability was discovered in your most critical system right now, how many hours would go by before you were actually safe? How you answer that single question? Well, it tells you everything you need to know about whether you're still fighting yesterday's war or if you're actually ready to win today's.